Good afternoon. Zlata spoke a lot, very fast, comprehensively, a lot. I can't really add anything. I just have to say that we talked to potential investors that see great opportunities in Russia. 200 million Russian-speaking people, including adjacent territories. This is a huge market. Technically and technologically, we are ready to create a new product. We're happy to consume it domestically, and we're happy to offer it for export. Today, everybody is interested in 3D projects, irrespectively of where they are produced. I know from international marketing experience, I'm always asked, do you have anything new? Do you have anything in 3D format? There is a vast opportunity here for investment, a whole range of investment. First of all, production budgets will grow because stereography and conversion costs will grow. Well, you don't need live shooting. But now we started to talk about converting vast volume of material that has been brought in 2D into 3D. Now, it would help those studios that have huge archives to get some cash flow to convert their projects, to convert their archives. It will be very profitable for those investors that come first to this market, because at the moment each minute is very expensive, but every day the process will get cheaper and cheaper, because companies that are, there'll be more and more people that will be shooting and converting into 3D, so obviously the costs will fall, it's obvious. And very soon it will become a very common thing. So those who come first, they will cream off the best profits. Later it'll be much cheaper, it'll be not very special later, but it's very special today. So welcome, come and invest.
Thank you very much, Edward. So what about the nature of the investor today? You mentioned looking at various investments, and I know that earlier we spoke about private equity, about non-traditional movie companies investing in film. What are you seeing in that regard, panel?
Well, one thing that we talked about earlier is that, again, this is something that's going on in the U.S. I don't know, I can't really speak for what's happening in Russia in this area, but in the U.S., major distributors really must put out 15 to 20 films per year in order to maintain their grip on exhibition, to maintain their power base. If they put out less than that, then they don't get the same terms for the films that they do put out, and their profitability is eroded. At the same time, the major studios really they can't afford and don't want to finance 15 to 20 movies a year. They would much rather finance 8 to 10 really large blockbuster type films and have somebody else do the others. So what that's done is it's created a niche, a place for intermediate finance companies to become the supplier of those movies for the majors. And you see there's companies in the U.S. such as Spyglass, that has an association at Universal. Legendary has an association with Warner Brothers. MRC works with different studios. These companies have sprung up because there's a void here that they're filling, and it can be quite profitable because they're smaller, they don't have the overhead, they don't have the kind of the inertia that is difficult to overcome that a major often has. And they can seize opportunities quicker, their marketing costs are lower. It's sort of a win-win, if you will, for both the financing company and the major studio who needs them, who needs their product, doesn't really want to finance it.
It's interesting that this is sort of constant around the world. I mean, Dmitry mentioned many of the same things that all of you mentioned in terms of where we are with 3D and where we are in terms of outside investors. Is one area of the world sort of setting the tone, or is this happening simultaneously? It's very fascinating that all of this is happening in a very much similar time frame globally.
I think it's all brand new. Nobody knows exactly where it's going. We're in new territory. Last year, Lionsgate released the first R-rated horror movie in digital 3D, and it's like what you were saying. It was special. It was new, and if we had both 3D and 2D theaters, and it was 5 times more people went to see 3D, so because we were the first. And I think we can't rely on being the first anymore, because even though it's new, it's now becoming more accessible. Like, for example, pretty much every animated movie is 3D, so you expect it to be in 3D. But what Timur is saying, I think, is really curious, which is how do we really evolve that? Because in the end of the day, what all of us up here, our job is to do is entertain people. We're here to make people laugh and to make people cry. So how do we take our medium and how do we entertain you the best possible way? And that's how we'll get people to come and watch and explore entertainment.
Well, I love what Timur said in terms of everything is a movie. Even if it's a game, it's all sort of a snippet of a film. And Edward, I wanted to get you into the conversation to talk a little about the digital revolution and about games, because I wonder if you're seeing pricing change. Microphone, please. I wonder if you're seeing pricing get impacted by sort of the proliferation of the games for movies.
Good afternoon. I have to notice that the digital projection and the possibility to screen films through digital projectors in cinemas arose more than 10 years ago. Well, the first 3D movie theater was opened in Russia in 2006, but only over a year ago the number of cinemas that were opening with digital possibilities started to double, and in the last 2 years 500 cinemas are capable of screening 3D, and they provide the main box office for 3D films. Now, if we look at a cinema with 8 screens, it screened 94 films in the last 3 months, 21 in 3D and only 6 films in 2D, and they gave 45% of box office revenue. So our investors and cinema owners or investors into networks of cinemas, they have received very good stimuli to build 3D cinemas or refurbishment of cinemas into 3D capability, and it allows them to show informative content, games, cyber sport, direct opera broadcasts from the Met, for instance, and important events like Champions League or World Cup or whatever. So, wanted to note 3 main factors which are at play today. First is the possibility of screening and a wider release of any film, not just the strongest commercial film, but any film has the possibility of wide screening, because the producer and the distributor doesn't have so many costs. You don't have to print copies. It's very easy to distribute. It's very easy to show it everywhere in the world where people live at accessible prices, and therefore piracy will fall and the risk of piracy will decrease. It's a very important factor. I think it's factor number 1. The second factor is that we now have the opportunity to make the cinema a popular place, an interesting place. You know, we have seasonal demand. We don't always have forecastably commercially strong films. We have some failed weekends, and if you manage digital protection well, you can attract viewers. People will have free time, irrespective of your content. They will have the wish to spend their time in the cinema. So if you operate your facility well, if you use this instrument creatively, you can give the viewers an interesting experience in the cinema, whatever the film. And the third factor I wanted to speak about is that due to alternative content, educational, science programs, they can bump up morning screenings in multi-screen cinemas. You can make these cultural values accessible. I don't know, the Russian Museum can have programs that would inform people that live all over Russia, which has a vast territory. So we'll have the same information space for the whole of the country. You can have first screening releases all over the territory. We think that this has potentially fantastic social advantage, and I think we need to develop cinema screening infrastructure, because we have only 5,200 screens in Russia, and the potential is huge. We can at least triple. We need to at least triple this figure. So thanks to digital projection and the things we're discussing, it's coming absolutely accessible and possible.
I think it's